It's the hollow chisel mortiser, big drill press essentially. It's got a foot pedal down here to move the head down, up and down. The chisel is held independently of the drill bit. So it's held in here, and the chuck back here is what holds the actual drill bit. So the two things we need to do before we can start putting the bits in is one is unplug the machine, and the other is put a piece of scrap wood down here. This will stop the bit from hitting the steel. So we'll just quickly run over the principles on how a hollow chisel mortiser works. As you can see, this is the actual chisel, and it's got the four sides, and then it's hollow in the middle, and then the auger bit slips inside. So the auger bit will lead the chisel, cut down. The chisel comes down and cuts the square hole after the auger bit is cut the round hole. The chips come up through the auger and are ejected up in this area here. So as the auger bit is slid in here, we'll have metal on metal. And so we need a little bit of clearance up there at the end, otherwise the auger bit will ride or rub on the actual chisel itself and really heat up, cause it to split and crack, lose its temper. I can just show you one that is a bad example of what happens. You can see how it's all turned black, it's lost its temper, it got so hot it actually split when it cooled down. So that's what we want to avoid. And the way we do that is, it's a little hard to see up in the machine, so I'll just show you down here. But we have a bushing that goes on to adapt each different size to the actual mortiser itself. And the way we'll space the two down here is we'll actually use a little shim. In this case, I'm using a penny as a spacer. It's about 5 or 6 thousandths of an inch. So once we get up in the machine, I'm going to slide that penny in just between the bushing and the chisel itself and tighten it up in there. So it'll be a three-step process once we get up to the mortiser, and we'll go over there now. So one last thing just before we go up and install it is sometimes it helps to put a little lubricant just on the shaft of the auger, and that will help it to not to rub so much. So just turn a lot easier. So I said there's 3 steps to putting the chisel and auger bit into the mortiser here. So the first step is we're going to have the bushing slipped up into here, and then with my finger over the bottom, see if I can get so we can see this a little bit. Hang on. So I've got one finger over the bottom so that the drill bit stays in place. I'm going to slide this up into this bushing, if I can find the right spot. Push the drill bit right up. Then we talked about that little spacer, the penny, and so that's going to slip in here just underneath the bushing and at the top of the shank of the chisel. And then I'm going to tighten the Allen key up a little bit. So that's step 1. Step 2 will be coming and fastening the actual drill bit in. So up at the chuck up here, I'll tighten that up. I'm holding the drill bit up as tight as I can. Try not to cut my fingers at the same time. So I'm getting this very tight. I'll go to all 3, tighten them up. And then I'm going to go one step farther and get a little cheater bar. Put it on here and just give it an extra little squeeze there. So I've got the drill bit fastened into the chuck. The chisel is fastened to this mechanism, but now I have to release the chisel again. And I'm going to grab a little square here because we want it to be square. And I'm going to open this again, and I'm going to pull the penny out. And you can see how the chisel will now just slide up that little bit, and that's the clearance we're looking for. So I'll just plunge the whole works down a little bit. Put my square on here so that the chisel is nice and square to the fence, and then pulling it right up tight, I will tighten the chisel in again. And that should be set up to give you a nice cut without it rubbing. We're done. There's also an instructions sheet taped up onto the wall on the right-hand side of the machine.